This is my time in Colombia. But it wasn't just a trip. It became part of my football journey and an experience I'll never forget. Over these weeks, I explored Medellin, trained every day, and experienced a completely different lifestyle and saw both the best and most difficult sides of the city. When I first arrived in Medellin, the first thing I noticed was the energy everywhere. The city is surrounded by mountains, and it's built right inside a valley. You can see houses going up the hills, busy streets everywhere, and constant movement all the time. There are motorbikes everywhere, and the sound never really stops. At first, it feels exciting and energetic, like there's always something happening. But after a while, you realize how loud and busy it actually is. But the views are unreal. Looking out over the city at night or from the hills is something I'll never forget. One of the first things I did was explore Medellin properly. I use the metro a lot, which is really clean and easy to get around. And then the cable cars were one of the best parts. You go up over the entire city, over the houses in the hills, and you realize how big Medellin actually is. You can literally see how people live in completely different areas depending on how high up the mountain they are. I also explored different neighborhoods, not just tourist spots, small streets, busy areas, and places where everyday life is happening. Every part of the city feels different. Some areas are modern and busy. Others are tight in the hills, and some feel hidden and quiet. One of the coolest things was ciclovia. This is when they close huge roads in the city so people can ride bikes, run, skate, and just be outside without cars or traffic. It's completely different, and it changes Medellin a lot. Instead of motorbikes and noise, it becomes full of people, music, families, and football games on the street. I remember riding through it and seeing the whole city just come alive in a different way. It felt like the city was finally breathing. And for me, cycling through that was one of the most fun parts of the whole trip. Because we didn't just always have public transport, I ended up biking
Dad, can I get the photo with
everywhere. At first, it was just practical and easy. But it turned into one of the best ways to experience the city. Every ride was different. Sometimes intense traffic, sometimes quiet roads, sometimes random football courts, and sometimes hidden areas I would have never ever have found otherwise. I even found small local communities and places between highways that felt completely real, not touristy at all. It just made me feel like I wasn't just visiting Medellin, I was actually living in it. One of the most peaceful places I went to was Parque RV. As soon as you get up there, everything changes. It's quiet, green, and completely different from the city below. One of the most unforgettable parts of the trip was going up into the mountains near Amaga and El Blocan. Everything changes instantly when you leave the city. The air feels fresher, it's quiet, and life slows down completely. There are animals everywhere, pigs, chickens, dogs, and just normal mountain life happening around you. One of the craziest things was the transport we used up there. It wasn't like anything I've seen before. Almost like a mix between a motorbike and a small vehicle. We also picked fresh oranges and avocados straight from the trees, which was unreal. That whole area felt like a completely different world compared to Medellin. Now, I want to be honest about the experience as well. Medellin is incredible, but it's not perfect. There are so many motorbikes everywhere, so the city is almost always loud. It never really feels completely quiet. Because it's in a valley, sometimes you feel like you need to escape into the mountains just to get fresh air and space. And in some parts of the city, the air isn't always the cleanest because of the traffic. And if you like beaches, there aren't any. So swimming in nature usually means long trips into the mountains. But even with all that, it didn't take away from the experience at all. One of the best nights was watching Colombia with the fans. We'll get back to that shortly. But this trip wasn't just about sightseeing. I trained almost every day with players like Adolfo, Misa, J Juice, and others. We worked on 1v1s, shooting, dribbling, and match situations. I also trained with different groups like Areros, Envigado, and Envigado FC, which pushed me even more. Every session felt like I was improving and getting closer to my goals. Between training, I was recovering, cycling, and learning Spanish. Every day was simple but focused on improving. It wasn't about relaxing, it was about getting better. Colombia wasn't just a trip for me, it was part of my adventure. And everything I experienced here, the good and difficult, is pushing me closer to my goal. One thing I didn't really expect in Colombia was how much I would just end up exploring every day without a proper plan. Like a lot of the time, I'll just leave the house, get on my bike, and just see where I end up. And that's how I found so many places around Medellin that I would have never seen otherwise. Some days, I just be riding through the city in really busy areas with traffic everywhere. Motorbikes going past, music playing from shops, people just outside all the time. And then literally a few minutes later, I'd be in a completely different area where it's quiet, up in the hills, and you can see the whole city from above. That contrast was actually one of the most insane things about being here. Even simple things like getting food or going somewhere would turn into a full experience because of how the city is built in the valley and how everything is spread out.
That's a dog, that's not good.
And the cycling made it even more real because you're not just going from point A to point B. You're actually going through the city properly.
Luis Cañada.
One thing I also realized is how much life happens outside in Colombia. People are always outside. In fact, some houses are more outside than inside. Just listen to this. Sitting, talking, watching or playing football, music everywhere, kids everywhere. It feels like the whole city is always moving. And then when I compare it to the mountains, it's the complete opposite. In the mountains, everything slows down completely. No noise, no traffic, just nature and really simple living. That difference between city and mountains is something I'll probably never forget. If I had to sum it up, Colombia felt like two different worlds in one place. One side is loud, busy, and full of energy, and the other side is calm, peaceful, and slow. And I got to experience both every single day. By this point, Colombia didn't really feel like somewhere I was visiting anymore. It started to feel normal. I knew my way around, I knew where places were, and every day I became more comfortable living there. Sometimes I really enjoyed seeing how different every single day could be. Some mornings I'd wake up knowing I had football training. Other days we'd go exploring with no really plan and see what we could find. Those unplanned days usually ended up becoming some of my favorites because you'd always discover something unexpected. One thing I noticed about Colombia is that people seem to spend a lot more time outside. I know I've already touched on this, but back home in New Zealand, people would spend time inside because of all the rain and stuff. Here, it rains only once and it pours after that. It's fine for a couple days or even weeks. Whether it's people talking to each other on the street, families together in parks, kids playing, people riding bikes, or music playing from nearby shops, there was always something to be life around you. It gave the city a really different feeling compared to places I've been before. As the weeks went on, I also started noticing the little things that you don't really think about when you first arrive somewhere. I got used to hearing Spanish everywhere I went, And even though I couldn't understand some things, I started recognizing more and more words. Every conversation became another chance to learn more Spanish. Food was another big part here of the experience. Trying different Colombian food and drinks was something I wanted to do whenever I had the chance. Some things were completely new to me, and it's always interesting seeing how different another country's food and meals are compared to what you're used to back at home. One thing I really enjoyed was simply looking around. Sometimes I'd stop for a few minutes just to take everything in and reflect. Looking across the valley, watching the cable cars moving above the city, and seeing football games happening on random courts. Hearing music from nearby houses, it all made Medellin feel alive. Football is everywhere in Colombia. You don't just have to see it at professional clubs. You see kids playing in parks, people having small matches in neighborhoods, and futsal courts being used all day. Everyone seems to have a team they support. You can really feel how important football is to the country. That made me even more excited every time I went to train, because I knew I was training in a country that genuinely loves football. Every session had a purpose. Some days we focused on dribbling. Other days it was finishing, passing, first touch, or 1v1 situations. Some sessions were really tough and physical, while others were more technical. Every coach I worked with had something different to teach me, and I tried to learn as much as I possibly could.
Nice.
Training in different countries also pushes you in different ways. You meet new players, see different styles, and you have to adapt quickly. I think that helped me become a better footballer because I couldn't just rely on what I already knew. Recovery became just as important as training. After sessions, I'd make sure I recovered properly so I was ready to go again and again and again. Looking after your body is a huge part of improving, especially when you're training nearly every day. And football was everywhere. On top of a mall, up in the mountains, in the valley, literally everywhere. Just pick a spot, whichever's your favorite, and there you go. Recovery became just as important as training. After sessions, I'd make sure I recovered properly so I was ready to go again the next day. Looking after your body is a huge part of improving, especially when you're training nearly every day. There were definitely days when I was tired, traveling, exploring, training, cycling around the city, and trying to learn Spanish all at the same time isn't easy. But I reminded myself why I came here in the first place. Every day was another opportunity to improve. One thing this trip taught me is that improvement doesn't only happen on the football pitch. Sometimes you just improve by putting yourself into a completely different environment. You learn how to adapt, how to communicate with different people, how to become more independent, and how to appreciate experiences that are outside of your comfort zone. Looking back now, I realize that some of my favorite memories weren't even the biggest moments. They were the small ones. Riding through the city, sitting on a mountain looking over the valley. Talking with new people, laughing after training, watching the sunset, listening to the city at night, those moments are just as important as the big adventures. When I think about Colombia now, I don't just think about one thing. I think about everything together. The football, the mountains, the people, the noise, the peaceful moments, the challenges, the adventures. It all becomes one experience that I'll always remember. And although this chapter is coming to an end, it doesn't feel like the end of the journey. It feels like another step towards where I want to go. Colombia has given me memories that I'll keep forever, lessons that I'll take into the future, and even more motivation to keep working towards my dream. Now, it's time for the next chapter. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.
Blanco.
One thing I also want to mention is these videos. A lot of people might think I'm always on my phone filming, but that's never the case. I only take a few short clips throughout the day and put my phone away. Most of the time, I'm just enjoying the experience, training, exploring, and spending time with my family. Making these videos doesn't actually take that long. And for me, it's more about capturing memories and sharing my road than being on my phone all day. Again, thanks for watching.
Stop the ball and go. Yeah, that's good. Left.